Welcome to Beyond the Smile, the podcast where we dive deep into dental health, nutrition, and everything that makes life more beautiful.
Hey everybody, welcome to our deep dive today. Today we're going to be talking about saliva and how it's like your secret weapon against tooth decay. We've got a ton of information here from Prime Dental Group, and it's really fascinating stuff. So get ready for some serious aha moments as we learn all about saliva.
You know, it's funny. We're always so focused on brushing and flossing, but we forget about this natural defense system. It's constantly working every time we eat. It's basically like we're waging war on our teeth.
Yeah.
And saliva is right there on the front lines.
I love that. Little tiny soldiers fighting off the sugar attacks. But how does it actually work? How does saliva protect our teeth?
Well, it washes away food and bacteria. Think of it like a rinse cycle. It's constantly rinsing, so those things can't hang around and cause too much trouble.
So it's like a little power washer for your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it neutralizes the acids that form when we eat, like sugary or acidic foods. Those acids are what cause cavities. Saliva helps to balance the pH levels in our mouths.
So it's not just cleaning, it's also playing defense. And I know I've read in some of the Prime Dental Group stuff that saliva can actually help rebuild enamel.
That's right. It contains calcium and phosphate, which are the building blocks of enamel. So it's like a repair crew that's always patching things up.
Wow. We've got cleaning, defending, and rebuilding, all thanks to saliva. Is there anything this stuff can't do?
Well, it also fights bacteria directly. It contains proteins and antibodies that help control harmful bacteria.
It's like a superhero for your mouth.
Yeah.
Saliva is my new best friend. But even superheroes have their weaknesses. What about when our saliva production takes a hit? Like when we have dry mouth, is that more than just an annoyance?
Dry mouth or xerostomia is a much bigger deal than people realize. It weakens all of those defenses that we've been talking about. It makes you much more susceptible to cavities and bad breath and even gum disease.
So it's like your army is depleted, you're vulnerable. And I know there are a bunch of things that can cause dry mouth, medications, medical conditions.
Yeah, there are a lot of medications that can cause dry mouth, like antihistamines, decongestants, even some antidepressants.
And I think it's called Sjogren's syndrome.
Yes.
An autoimmune disorder. That can also affect saliva production.
That's right. Sjogren's syndrome affects the glands that produce moisture, including your salivary glands. Diabetes and some cancer treatments can also lead to dry mouth. Stress and anxiety, too. They can temporarily reduce saliva flow.
So if you're feeling parched, it might be more than just needing water. It could be a sign of something more serious. What should somebody do if they suspect that they have dry mouth?
First step is always to talk to your dentist. They can help you figure out what the underlying cause is and recommend the best course of action, even if it's just occasional dry mouth. There are some things you can do to boost saliva production.
Oh, okay. Let's get into that. I'm always up for some actionable advice.
Chewing sugar-free gum, especially the kind with xylitol. It's a great way to stimulate your salivary glands. Plus, xylitol is a natural sweetener that's actually good for your teeth.
So it's like a workout for your saliva glands. And you get a sweet treat. I like it. What if you're not a gum chewer? Are there other ways to get those glands pumping?
Absolutely. Snacking on crunchy fruits and veggies like apples, carrots, and celery.
Chewing is key. The more you chew, the more saliva you produce. It's a good excuse to load up on those healthy snacks. What about just staying hydrated?
Staying hydrated is crucial. Drinking plenty of water throughout the day. It's essential for your overall bodily function, and that includes saliva production.
Water really is the ultimate life hack. All right, so we talked about things to add. Are there things that we should be limiting if we want to keep our saliva flowing freely?
Yes. Caffeine and alcohol can dehydrate you, which reduces saliva flow. So if you're struggling with dry mouth, it might be worth cutting back.
Makes sense. Anything else we can do to create that pro-saliva environment?
If you wake up with dry mouth, using a humidifier can help. It'll add moisture to the air.
It's amazing how such a simple thing can make such a difference. But before we move on, I'm just curious, what is saliva actually made of? What gives it these incredible powers?
It's a pretty complex cocktail. It contains enzymes, proteins, antibodies, minerals like calcium and phosphate, and even electrolytes.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit. What are the enzymes doing in our saliva?
Enzymes kick off the process of breaking down food right there in your mouth, making it easier to digest.
Oh, so they get started right away. That's pretty cool. And remind me what the proteins and antibodies do again.
They're the bodyguards, constantly patrolling and neutralizing threats.
Right. Between the rinsing action, the pH balancing, and this army of proteins and antibodies. It's no wonder our mouths are able to stay healthy.
Exactly. And don't forget the calcium and phosphate. They're the construction workers constantly rebuilding and strengthening our teeth.
And the electrolytes.
Electrolytes help maintain the proper balance of fluids in our mouth. Think of them as the regulators keeping everything running smoothly.
Wow. It's really a finely tuned system. And to think it's all happening without us realizing it?
That's the beauty of the body. It's incredibly efficient and adaptable. And saliva is a perfect example.
I'm feeling a newfound appreciation for my saliva. It really is this secret weapon we all have. It works so hard to keep our smiles healthy. But I'm sure there's even more to the story.
Yeah, there is. Saliva's role goes far beyond just oral health. It's involved in digestion, immunity, even our sense of taste.
Wait, really? Saliva affects our sense of taste. Now, I'm intrigued. Let's dive into that next. So saliva affects our sense of taste. I always thought it was all about the taste buds on our tongue.
Well, those taste buds are important, but they can't do their job without saliva. It dissolves the food and carries those molecules to your taste buds.
So it's like saliva is a translator. It's helping the taste buds understand what they're tasting.
That's a great way to put it. Without saliva, you just wouldn't perceive flavors as clearly.
That makes sense. I've heard people with dry mouths say food tastes bland. It's like their taste buds aren't getting the full message.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good reminder that even simple things like taste, it involves so many complex interactions, and saliva is right there in the middle of it all.
It's incredible how this one fluid does so much. We've talked about cleaning, protecting, rebuilding, and now its role in taste. What else are we learning about saliva?
Well, researchers are discovering that saliva can be used in disease diagnosis.
You're telling me a simple saliva test could tell us all sorts of things about our health.
It's not science fiction. Scientists are looking into whether saliva can be used to detect certain cancers, infections, even genetic disorders.
Wow. What are the advantages of using saliva?
Saliva collection is painless, it's non-invasive, and it's relatively inexpensive. It doesn't require special personnel or equipment.
So people could collect samples at home
Yeah.
and send them in. That could be huge for healthcare.
Right. It could make preventative screening and early detection much easier.
It sounds like it could be a real game changer. Are there any challenges?
Well, it's still a relatively new field. More research is needed. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Not all diseases leave traces in saliva.
Right. It's not a magic crystal ball, but the possibilities are really exciting.
Yeah. Definitely an area of research to watch.
So we've covered a lot of ground. The basics of saliva's function, its role in taste, and even disease diagnosis. What else is important for people to know about keeping their saliva healthy?
Well, aside from the practical tips like staying hydrated and chewing sugar-free gum, overall health plays a big role.
So taking care of our bodies also benefits our saliva.
Exactly. Managing stress, getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, it all contributes to a healthy mouth. And of course, don't forget regular dental checkups.
Right. Our saliva needs our help too.
Think of it as a partnership. You do your part, and your saliva will do its part.
I like that. It's not just one thing. It's everything.
Exactly. And speaking of connections, there's one more thing we should talk about. How saliva changes as we age.
Oh, that's interesting. Do we have to worry about our saliva drying up as we get older? I hear people talk about that.
It's a bit more nuanced than that. Some people might see a decrease in saliva flow as they age, but it's not a universal decline.
So it's not an inevitable thing. That's good to know.
What's more important than age itself is the impact of other factors that tend to come with age, like medications, certain health conditions, lifestyle choices.
So it's those other factors that are often the real culprits, not just getting older.
Exactly. And that means we have some control over the situation.
It's like all this other stuff is kind of hijacking our saliva as we get older. What are some of the biggest culprits?
Well, medications are a big one. A lot of medications that are commonly prescribed to older adults, like for high blood pressure or heart disease, even allergies, they can have dry mouth as a side effect.
Makes sense. And we talked about Sjogren's syndrome earlier. Does that become more common as we get older?
Yeah, it's more often diagnosed in older adults. And certain cancer treatments can also impact saliva production.
So it's kind of double whammy. The conditions themselves and the treatments can both affect saliva.
Right.
Seems like it's important to be aware of these things, especially as we age.
Definitely. It's all about being proactive. Talk to your doctor and your dentist about any medications you're taking and any health concerns. They can help you figure out if something is contributing to dry mouth.
So knowledge is power. But what if you're already dealing with dry mouth? Are you just stuck with it?
No, not at all. All those tips we talked about, Staying hydrated, chewing sugar-free gum, snacking on crunchy fruits and veggies, those can all help stimulate saliva production no matter how old you are.
Right. Limiting caffeine and alcohol. Using a humidifier.
Exactly. And don't forget about good oral hygiene. Brushing and flossing regularly really helps to remove food particles and bacteria.
So even if our saliva production isn't what it used to be, we can still help it out.
Exactly.
Are there any other options?
Yeah, your dentist can recommend things like saliva substitutes or even prescribe medication to help stimulate saliva production.
So there are things you can do. You don't have to just live with it. It seems like the main thing is we don't have to accept dry mouth as we get older.
Absolutely. By understanding the factors involved, making healthy choices, and talking to our healthcare providers, we can maintain a healthy mouth throughout our lives.
Yeah, I love that. It's good to know that we can do something about it. Well, I think we've learned a lot today, all about the functions of saliva, the challenges of dry mouth, and some practical tips to keep everything working smoothly.
It has been fascinating. I hope our listeners have a new appreciation for saliva.
Me too. It's truly an unsung hero. Who knew something we usually just spit out could be so important?
It's a good reminder that even the little things in our bodies can have a big impact on our health.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, next time you swallow, take a moment to appreciate the power of your saliva.
And if you have any concerns about your oral health, talk to your dentist.
Great advice. Until next time, stay curious and keep those smiles shining bright.